Junior Factor Nation. Speak without fear.
So, Connor, this last question is a big one. Do you think that the majority of our founding fathers, based on their ideas, based on their values, would be in favor or against President Obama's policies?
Most likely against, and not just President Obama, but that includes Presidents Bush, Clinton, Bush the Elder. Reagan would be a little better, even though he did spend an awful lot on defense spending, which he did a lot with that. But I'm going to go back to Bert Folsom's article on taxes here, because what the Obama administration, they just want to tax the rich to death. They keep talking about it, tax the rich, tax the rich. Well, if you look at the period of time when FDR was president, when he had that 90% income in corporate tax, you look at the chart of the unemployment rate. It doesn't move much. It's up above 15 and up above 20% every year FDR is in office. Yet people still think he's so great. Really? He had unemployment that high for all years? Every year he was president, the unemployment rate was over 10%. Every year. And people think he's a great president? No, he didn't save the economy. World War II did. That allowed businesses to start going back to work again. And a perfect example, my favorite president, Calvin Coolidge, he slashed taxes after him and Harding, who died while in office, and Coolidge continued on with it because the administration of Woodrow Wilson, the first real, besides Roosevelt, these two guys are the first big progressives in office. The unemployment was 12% in 1921. We had a mini depression. A lot of people don't know that. When Harding took over, he slashed taxes, and then when Coolidge took over during Harding's presidency after he died, taxes were slashed again. Unemployment rate dropped to below 3%. That's why we had the Roaring '20s. Why were they so great? Cars. Henry Ford. He could build his own company, even though, according to President Obama, he didn't build his own company. Apparently, Calvin Coolidge helped him do it, or something like that. And then there were TVs. TVs started to they started to come around. The idea of a television, radios were big. People started having radios in their houses, and refrigerators. All those items, all these very popular household items that we all think are necessities now, happened in the 1920s, the Roaring '20s, when taxes were cut, not raised. The rich weren't suffering with these incredibly high taxes. And then, of course, when Reagan was president, when he cut the income tax, computers, fax machines, phones, Walkman radios, and, all this stuff that's outdated now, but back then it was amazing technology that we came out with. It's not when we're taxing people to death and taxing small businesses and the wealthy, because President Obama seems to have this agenda against the wealthy, which I don't understand, because they provide many jobs in this country. They're not taking them away. They're providing them. And the reason that some jobs are being outsourced, such as Jeffrey Immelt, the job czar, the head of GE, who's outsourcing jobs to China and India now, he's supposed to be bringing jobs here. We can't afford to have jobs here, not only because of the high corporate tax rate, but because of the union power. Founding fathers weren't in favor of gigantic union power and all the union bonuses. Founding fathers were weary of guys like that. They didn't want to get themselves involved in that type of handling of businesses. So no, the founding fathers, and of course too the healthcare bill. I'm pretty sure that they never expected this to happen. They're spinning in their graves right now. The government is forcing people to purchase something. And not only that, what it's going to do to our economy. What Canada and Europe have, essentially. Universal health care. It doesn't work in a country of 300 million people. Maybe in a country of 3,000 people who all have healthy bodies, maybe you could try universal health care then, but not in a country of 300 million people that's so diverse. It doesn't work. And we've seen it before in history. But apparently people aren't looking at it. So the founding fathers would be very disappointed. And just look at the debt. That alone would make their head explode. Over $15 trillion debt right now. approaching 16 trillion. That was unfathomable back then. Now, it really doesn't seem like a heck of a lot because we're so used to hearing the number. But the Founding Fathers believed in small government, low taxes, as I mentioned before. Not big government, bigger taxes, tax the rich to death. If you don't have any incentives for people to work, they're not going to work. They don't have the ability or the money to work. You need money to start a business. And if small business owners like today are being crushed with the income taxes, and then of course the bigger companies being crushed by the corporate taxes, people aren't going to be making money. And people are and the businesses are going to start laying off people, and they're not going to have money to spend. It's a vicious cycle, and it's continuing with these policies. And hopefully it won't continue, but we'll have to wait and see if Mitt Romney wins and if Mitt Romney does make the necessary changes that will help the economy. We'll have to wait and see.
Factor Talk Radio.